Thomas and Friends, Journey Beyond Sodor. It was a glorious day on the island of Sodor. As Henry rolled into Vickerstown on his way to the mainland, suddenly a signal failed. Screech! Henry tried to brake, but he crashed into another goods train. Henry had to go to the steamworks for repairs. Sir Topham had decided that James would take Henry's cars. James puffed with pride to be going to the mainland. That's a great job. What an adventure. Thomas wasn't pleased. James always got the best jobs, and the Red Engine said that he was Sir Topham Hatt's favorite. Then an idea flew into Thomas's funnel. Early the next morning, Thomas went to the Vickerstown goods yard, and he collected James's trucks. Soon he was on the bridge to the mainland. He was excited, but also a little nervous. He didn't know how to find his destination, the Bridlington goods yard. On the mainland, Thomas met a crane named Beresford. "Who goes there?" Beresford asked. "I'm Thomas," the Blue Engine peeped. Thomas asked for directions to the goods yard, but Beresford wouldn't help him. He'd never been there. He could only go up and down a small section of track and spin around. He was a very curious crane indeed. Thomas quickly steamed away. Later, Thomas rolled into a lonely engine yard filled with old machine parts. "Hi-de hi! Pleased to meet you," tooted an engine named Lexi. A shy engine named Theo rolled up alongside her. Thomas had never seen engines like these. He asked what kind they were. "We're experimental," Theo peeped. "It means we're different," tooted Lexi. "Test models, trial and error." Lexi and Theo had another friend named Merlin, but Thomas didn't see him anywhere. "You won't see Merlin," Lexi peeped with a chuckle. "He's a stealth engine, designed to be hard to see, out of sight, invisible." "Merlin can make himself invisible?" Thomas gasped. Lexi laughed again. "Let's just say he's always disappearing." With fresh coal in his hopper and a tank full of water, Thomas set off once more. It wasn't long before he rounded a bend and saw an amazing sight. A giant steelworks. "I have a feeling we're not on Sodor anymore," said one of the troublesome trucks. As Thomas steamed into the steelworks, two huge engines rolled up. One was a big tank engine named Hurricane. The other one was a diesel shunter named Frankie. Thomas asked if the engines knew how to get to Bridlington. "Of course," said Frankie, "but you mustn't worry about going to the goods yard tonight. Uncouple those cars." "We'll look after them for you," boomed Hurricane. Thomas released his trucks and went to tour the steelworks. Everything glowed and sizzled as molten steel was poured into molds. Special machines and cars whizzed around him. "This is the hottest place in town," Hurricane and Frankie tooted. When the tour was over, Thomas settled into a comfy shed for a much-needed rest. The next day, long before dawn, Frankie and Hurricane woke up Thomas. They'd already taken his cars to Bridlington. "If my cars haven't been delivered, I need to head back to Sodor," Thomas peeped sleepily. "But we helped you, little tank engine," Frankie tooted. "Surely you won't mind helping us in return." Thomas agreed and spent the day shunting loud old trucks and transporting waste from the furnace. It was hot and dangerous work. He couldn't wait to get back to Sodor. But when he was done, Frankie and Hurricane wouldn't let him go. They said there was more to do, and they locked him in the steelworks. Meanwhile, back on Sodor, everyone wondered where Thomas was. James was especially concerned because he was tired of doing all of his friends' work. "I'm going to the mainland to find Thomas and bring him home," he said. That night on the mainland, thunder rumbled and lightning flashed across the sky. Thomas knew he had to escape while Frankie and Hurricane slept. He rolled through the darkened steelworks, slowly building up speed, and bashed through the gates. Thomas escaped into the dark woods. "Are you hiding?" a voice asked. "I love hiding. I'm a stealth engine." Thomas couldn't see anyone, but he knew this was Merlin's voice. "Don't worry," Merlin whispered. "You're with the best hider ever." Thomas felt safe, and the big engines didn't find him. The next morning, Merlin was gone. As Thomas steamed toward Sodor, he met Beresford the crane. Again. Just as Frankie and Hurricane came around the bend, Beresford quickly hoisted Thomas up and hid him. Just then, James rolled on the truck and met Frankie and Hurricane. The three engines steamed away together. Thomas knew that he needed to save his friend. He also knew who could help. Thomas hurried to find the experimental engines and asked Theo, Lexi, and Merlin to help save James. But we can't do anything," Theo protested. "We can try," replied Merlin. "This is the most excitement I've had in forever," Lexi tooted. Theo and Lexi took a flatbed full of scrap and pretended there was an accident, while Frankie and Hurricane went to investigate. Thomas and Merlin snuck into the steelworks. "James," Thomas peeped, "we really need to go." "Oh, I'm more than ready to go," James puffed. "This work doesn't suit me at all." Just then, Frankie and Hurricane returned. They chased James and Thomas into the fiery steelworks. Theo tried to help, but he crashed into a control panel. A giant magnet suddenly swung out over the tracks and attached itself to Thomas. It lifted him up and carried him toward a blast furnace. Theo hit another button to release Thomas. He crashed to the ground and knocked over a vat of molten steel. A fiery puddle spread toward Thomas. Hurricane sped forward and shoved Thomas out of the way. The little blue engine was safe, but the big engine's wheels had touched a boiling hot puddle. "Help!" Hurricane steamed. "My front wheels! I'm melting!" Merlin quickly pulled Hurricane to safety, but Hurricane's wheels were damaged. He needed some serious repairs. Without Hurricane's help, Frankie didn't know what she would do. "I can't do everything on my own," she said. "Nobody wants to work here." Thomas knew some engines that might. The experimental engine said they'd be happy to help at the steelworks. They liked being really useful and helpful. When they were back on Sodor, Thomas apologized for taking James's trucks. "And I'm sorry I teased you about being Sir Topham Hatt's favorite engine," James peeped. "If anyone's the favorite, Thomas, it's probably you." "Don't be silly, James," Thomas peeped with a chuckle. They rolled into Timothy's sheds where their friends were happy to see them again. "Now there's a sight for sore eyes," Sir Topham Hatt explained. He was happy to have all his favorite engines back together again. The end. Dedicated to Chris Richardson. Peace. And sorry if I made a few mistakes. But, yeah. Bye!